Hey y'all, how's it going? It's Sway, and we have a big patch that just dropped 15 minutes ago. We are going to talk about the Battlegrounds part of it because it is massive. Let's go. So usually 0.6 is halfway through the Battleground season, meaning we get a pretty big shakeup. And we did. Quests are coming back to the Battlegrounds. I am so excited about this. It's probably my favorite, maybe, modification to Battlegrounds. So we have quests coming back. Last time we had quests, we didn't have spells. So I'm curious to see how this is going to change the actual feeling of quests. But for people that don't know what quests are, let's review that really quickly. On turn 4, quests are offered with a reward. Now, these quest and reward pairings are not always going to be the same, so the same quest will not lead to the same reward. The rewards are really game-changing, so they will impact the rest of your game, which if you've ever played Sire Denathrius, quests. So playing Sire Denathrius again now means that you'll get 2 quests that may interact with each other. All that being said, your quest and your reward are determined by your hero and the strength of your hero. So if your hero is one with more armor, meaning it may not have the best hero power, you may have an easier quest to do for a better reward, comparable to a hero with less armor has a harder quest to do for the same potential reward. Just a quick note that all of the images that we're about to see are the baseline for the quests. So the number could be different when you are playing a certain hero with the potential reward paired with it. So don't take the numbers too seriously, but just what the quests require of you. First quest is pertaining to spells. This is fill the cauldron with cast 9 spells. Now let's note really quickly, it doesn't say 9 tavern spells. So you don't have to cast 9 spells from the shop. You can cast blood gems. You can use the coin from the shell collector. You can use the shields from the slimy gladiator. There's a lot of different spells in the game that are not necessarily tavern spells. Next is the familiar unlikely duo. Invite the guests, dust for prince, cry for help, exhume the bones, assemble a lineup, find the murder weapon, reenact the murder, follow the money, hire an investigator, crack the case, pressure the authorities, round up the suspects. Can't forget my very favorite quest, which is sort it all out. You know, I have never, ever forgotten to look at my minion order. No. Oh no, I messed up again! Notably, Track the Footprints and Burn the Evidence are gone. Track the Footprints was refreshing the shop, and Burn the Evidence was selling minions. I am very glad that Burn the Evidence is gone. I feel like it'd be a lot harder now with spells in the game. We'll go a little more in depth with the rewards because there is a few potential different synergies or things that you can do with the rewards. We're going to start with the new rewards, which do have a 2 times appearance rate. They're twice more likely to be seen for a limited time after quests begin. First, we have Beyond the Mirage. Tavern spells cost 1 less. Just some okay value. Let's think about the coin, the tavern coin, right? That's free gold. Discovering battle cries and death rattles. Those are less than the cost of a minion, so that's nice. Not sure about this one. Next is Temporal Tampering, which I didn't have to re-record like 4 times. Temporal tampering? Temporal tampering. Oh, anyways, this one is your tavern spells cast twice. That sounds so good. It's like a Bran, but not, and forever. And you don't need board space for the Bran, and it's a spell Bran. I love this one a lot. And if it casts twice, let's think about like Nala. Menagerie so buffed here. Moving on, we have a Splitting Scroll. Whenever you buy a tavern spell that costs 3 or more, get an extra copy of it. So it's like a permanent, well, after you finish the quest reward, it's like a permanent BOGO for 3 or more. That's really good too. That's really good. The only thing that might be a little bit challenging is hand space management, which is something that I will happily deal with if that means that we get that much value. Are you kidding? Like, the Divine Shield spell is only going to cost 3. For 3 gold, you cannot be George and give a minion Divine Shield. Sold. Next up is Cycle of Energy. This is like the Trembling Trolley. This is Avenge 4, get a random tavern spell. So like the Trembling Trolley, but without having to worry about a snipe or a board space. You can run a undead comp, you can run a beast comp. You have a lot of opportunity, a lot of options. If you have Brewcon, you can use the spell that gives you 1/1 elementals. Really great with Terran, really great with Greybow. The randomness of it is a little concerning because you can do all of those things I talked about, but how much value are you actually getting? No, that's value. That's good. That's good. As long as it's not too challenging to get done, I'm down. Next is one I am concerned about, excited about. This is Tumbling Disaster. Whenever you summon a minion, give it +1/+1. Avenge 4, upgrade this permanently. I feel like this is going to be so good when you play beasts or undead, but specifically beasts with Banana Slammer. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about this one. I'm sure it's going to be moderately hard to achieve, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It'll be fine. Next is one that reminds me a lot of one of my favorite anomalies. We have Double-Headed Reward. The first time you buy a card each turn, get a copy of it. Noted that this is card, not minion. So if a spell is the first thing you buy, you get a copy of it. I really loved this anomaly. It was one of my favorite ones. Anything that gives you econ, probably one of my favorite things. Comparing this one to a few of the previous spell ones that we've talked about, I don't think it's like really, really disgusting, but I am just excited about seeing my favorite anomaly again in a different form. Next is the Gift of the Golden Kobold. Feeling really similar to Elise here. After you refresh, 5 times make the highest tier minion in the tavern golden. So we love this because we love to see the highest tier minion. I love Elise. This is like Golden Monkey, but without the monkey. It's good. This is fun. This is a secret culprit. Get a tier 7 minion. So it's like Thorum. And if you're playing Thorum, then you get 2 tier 7 minions. And if you're not, then you are whatever hero you are cosplaying Thorum. I, in my heart, have a particular love for a handful of the tier 7 minions, so I think that this one is going to be fun. Next is Open Auditions. At the start of your turn, discover a buddy. ETC for free skis. I just had a flashback to the first time we had quests with that hidden quest where you could find everyone got it right, partner in crime. Oh, where everyone could get a buddy, their golden buddy. We have 2 more new ones left. This is Stash of the Scribe. At the start of each turn, get 3 random tavern spells. So this is another hand space management one where you have to make sure you're not getting too much during your turn from gems, from death rattles, or spells from things that give you spells during combat, or, just in general. You have to make sure that you have space in your hand to receive the value from this reward at the start of your turn. Last but not least, from our new spells, this is Stable Amalgamation. Avenge 7. Ooh. When you have space, summon a 50/50 amalgam. Avenge 7-fold. That's what I was thinking of. I was like, Avenge 7, and then I kept saying it. If you have a full board that doesn't summon anything else, that means that you still get this value. When you have space, summon a 50/50 amalgam. That is a large minion that you just get. If you set yourself up in a very specific way, you could potentially bring it back from the cultist. If you have enough things die before it, then it summons, and then it for some reason dies because your opponent is really strong, and then the cultist brings it back. You can give it Venom with Murlocs with that Murloc Death Rattle. Banana Slammer can buff it to 100/100. Moving on now, we have all of the old quest rewards from last quest meta. Of course, there's going to be some new fun synergies, and especially with what I talked about earlier with Sire Denathrius getting 2 quest rewards, so you can maybe find some fun synergy with one of the new ones and one of the old ones. We have a Snicker Snacks. At the end of your turn, 2 friendly minions trigger their battle cries. This is a end of turn effect, so can be benefited by Drakari, also Bran because triggering battle cries. We have Stolen Gold. Start of combat, make your left and rightmost minions golden. Very, very useful, especially for those comps that run things with a board progression like swarm comps with beasts or undead comps. Super, super great quest reward. Next, we have Evil Twin. Start of combat, summon a copy of your highest health minion. Make sure that you have the board space for it if you are going to be utilizing the Evil Twin, because if you don't, you will lose that start of combat effect. Following that is Ritual Dagger. After a friendly Death Rattle minion dies, give it +4/+4 permanently. I do think this is going to be beneficial specifically for undead comps getting the the base undead, like the summoner and things just outside of Tunnel Blaster range. But it is a little bit weird now because in general, most of your summoning comps, your beast comps, your undead comps, you want those minions to die early, which I kind of felt that way about Ritual Dagger last time around. But we could also think about like Naga, because Naga have the Surf and Surf. So you can put that crab on whatever you want to, and it can get +4/+4 permanently. Of course, that is one isolated situation, but, still beneficial. Next up is Anima Bribe. After you sell a minion, give its stats to a minion in the tavern. I'm pretty sure during quests, if I remember correctly, this one got removed pretty early, but came back during Anomaly meta as Anomalous Bribe. So happy to see Anima Bribe back during quests. I think it's going to be really fun, and there's some heroes that are very much going to be able to use this. I'm thinking of Mutinous, where you can make one large minion and then you sell it. I'm also thinking about the Ball of Murlocs, which is not actually called that. Heedless Hoarder, the Heedless Hoarder, which gives its stats to one of your minions. And then you also, in this situation, get the stats in the shop as well. Next is Devils in the Details. At the end of your turn, your left and rightmost minions consume a minion in the tavern to gain its stats. Again, end of turn works with Drakari, and especially useful if you're buffing your shops or have something that buffs your shops with an aura, perhaps. Maybe we're thinking of demons. Next up is the Smoking Gun. Your minions have +4 attack, so this is not like the current Deathwing with a start of combat effect. This is all the minions you summon, so definitely useful for taking down large opponent boards with lots of little teeny tiny boop boop boops, but they have +4. Following up is Cooked Book. After you buy a minion, give it +1/+1 and upgrade this. This is so incredibly useful for mech. You buy a magnetic, you attach the magnetic. Also, we have our Beatboxer, so you can get double the value from one magnetic. Really, really good. So you can just snowball minions instead of just having the overall effect of, oh, I bought this minion and it was large. And then 3 turns later, I bought a copy of it and it's large. And, 4 turns later, I tripled it. Well, that's a really long time. Hopefully you're not waiting 7 turns to triple something. But you know what I mean. And then you're like, well, this is a large minion, but this is as large as it's ever going to be. Where mech, you just keep adding stuff to, and you're happy, and everyone's happy. Play mech. Then is Mirror Shield. After each refresh, give a minion in the tavern +4/+4 and Divine Shield. Like in Hanzo, but predictable because you will always get +4/+4 and a shield on a minion in the shop. This was never my favorite. I love RNG so very much, but this one was a little bit too RNG heavy where I was like, well, I don't really care about this minion that has shield, but I guess I'll buy it, and then it just never worked out really well for me. Alternatively, this is one of my favorite ones for obvious reasons. This is Secret Sinstone. After you discover a card, get an extra copy of it. So there's many ways to discover cards, whether it's tripling and then discovering a tier up. There's Primal Fin that lets you discover Murloc if there's Murloc in. There's Patient Scout that lets you sell and discover. Actually, that might be it. No, spells. Oh, the spells, the discover spells. Oh, that's going to be so good. Ghastly Mask is next. Add card to your hand. Your end of turn effects trigger an extra time. A few things to note here. Depending on what card it wants to give you, the difficulty is going to get more or less. And then it says an extra time. This is the only end of turn extra time. So it stacks with Drakari if you wanted to, do that. Speaking of end of turn, we have Theotar's Parosol. At the end of your turn, give your rightmost minion stealth until the next turn and +8 health. This is very specifically good for milk comps or, Rivendare. But aside from that, it's not my favorite thing. The +8 health is really beneficial, but especially now with Anchor in, the Audacious Anchor with Pirates, I'm not quite sure that this is the best quest reward to take because that makes your rightmost minion incredibly targetable and also makes you less able to play around. Like if you see your opponents playing Pirates and you know for a fact they have Anchor, if you know for a fact they have Anchor, you probably sacrifice the +8 health and the stealth because that minion is just not going to be there. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but it can be really useful for things that give you value. Up next is Red Hand. At the start of your turn, give a minion in your hand +12/+12. I remember discovering during quest meta that this worked with Phelan. So I'm going to say this again really quickly. Use Phelan if you have Red Hand, because your minions that you don't get to use until you get to the tavern tiers, they're capable of getting buffed. It was great. Did not hate. But actually, though, this doesn't feel like the best spell, but also definitely doesn't feel like the worst spell. And I'm kind of curious because last time we didn't have like this hand buff mechanism that we have now. So I'm kind of curious how this is going to go. Victim's Specter. Surprise, surprise, another one of my favorites. After each combat, get a copy of the last friendly minion that died. It's economy. We are so surprised that I enjoy this one. Another hidden body. Discover a minion of your tier can be earned endlessly. So if this is one you haven't seen yet, basically after you complete the quest and you get the reward of discovering a minion on your tier, the quest resets itself, the same exact quest that you chose. So you do the same thing again, and then the quest resets itself, and so on and so forth. So basically like Silas, but without buying the tickets and doing whatever the quest tells you instead. Alter Ego. Even tier minions in the tavern have +7/+7. Swaps to odd next turn. You know, you get stats on the minions. Sometimes it's beneficial for like a certain tech piece to have some additional stats. It's never really broken, but it is good mid-game tempo if it's very easy to accomplish. Could help just like get your foot in the door. The friends along the way. At the start of your turn, get 2 random blank of a particular minion type. So it obviously depends on what minion types are in. Another one where you do have to worry about hand space management. So let's pretend it says get 2 random Quillbore and you start playing Quillbore. Quillbore love gems. And then your hand is filled with gems and all of a sudden there's no room for the friends along the way. So be aware of your hand space for this one. Can be very beneficial though. Menagerie Mayhem. Admittedly, I didn't love this one in the past, but it looks changed. I believe this is a change. At the end of your turn, give your minions +1/+1 for each different friendly minion type. So instead of just being an attack buff, it is now +1/+1. I like that actually so much better. I apparently have a thing against just buffing attack, or maybe it's just a thing against buffs. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I really like this one. It's an end of turn effect, works with Drakari, +1/+1, and Menagerie comps are more and more relevant, especially with how good Nala is. So maybe this is going to be good. Oh, lamps. I literally have a soundboard effect and a light effect in this room based on this one quest. I love it so much. This is Pilfered Lamps. You only need 2 copies of a minion to make it golden. Be aware, right, for specific instances of like elementals where you wanted to triple something with a surprise elemental. Well, surprise, you have a surprise elemental and just one, and then that's it. That's the golden. But that is literally the only flaw with lamps. Lamps are perfect. I think that's a me thing. I don't think that's a popular opinion, so take that with a grain of salt, but I love lamp. Yoggtastic Tasties. At the start of your turn, spin the wheel of Yogg Saron. We love spinning the wheel. We have the spell of the wheel. It's chaos. It's fun. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it's beneficial, maybe it's not. But when it is, you just trust in Yogg. Put your faith in Yogg. Wondrous Wisdomball is one of my favorites for the memes as well. Occasionally gives helpful refreshes. So sometimes they're helpful. Sometimes they're super not helpful. But every time, they're fun. When they are helpful, it's sick. It's awesome. You're like, whoa, how did I possibly get this shop? Amazing, let's go. And then sometimes you're like, what am I gonna do with these things? Essence of Zerus. At the end of your turn, get a Shifter Zerus, which transforms into random minions. And before you say anything, I did science this, and it doesn't work. If you played back in the time of Shifter Zerus, you know, where you could buy them and leave them in your hand, and you could triple one if you found enough Zeruses at the correct time. If for some reason you try to triple them with Drakari, where you play Drakari, Golden Drakari, right, gives you 3 Zeruses. They transform and do not triple. So if anyone's like, I'm going to hack the system, because clearly if you're here, that's something you enjoy doing, it doesn't work. But It is a random minion, so it's not Tavern tier bound. So it could lead to some really, really fun high roll things or just memes. Hidden Treasure Vault. At the start of your turn, gain 1 gold and it upgrades each turn. It does, you know, stack your gold, and the sooner you get it done, the more value you get from it. Yeah, that's a really, really just good quest reward. Another one of my favorites here, this is Ethereal Evidence. At the start of every turn, choose from 2 new rewards. That, the RNG of it, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but when it does, it does. The Golden Hammer. Spellcraft, make a friendly minion golden until next turn. Notably, this is a friendly minion, so you can't make a minion in the shop golden and then play it and get the value. Can't do that. But if you have one turn where you decide that Bran could be really valuable to you, you can golden a Bran and then play out your turn. And then the next turn, you're like, oh, never mind, it's a Rivendare turn. And you have both for some reason, and you golden your Rivendare, and then you're strong for that turn with the Rivendare. So really, really versatile. Allows you to change your board pretty drastically if you're someone that enjoys doing that. Also fun, I should say, also fun if you're not someone that enjoys changing your board randomly. Also fun because you can just go ahead and use it on the beneficial thing every single time. So let's keep that in mind as well. And it does work with Lava Lurker, so you can play it on Lava Lurker and makes it golden permanently. Next up is Sinfall Medallion. After you play a minion, give 2 other friendly minions of its tier +2/+2. I have played this one in spell meta because of Sire Denathrius, and it left me a little wanting, just because the buffs for the cycling of the minions didn't seem to be enough, in my opinion. But it may have been, I mean, this is a very low sample size. It's 1 game. So could have just been the 1 game. I'm intrigued to see this one in play again. Kidnap Sack is a spellcraft. Choose a non-golden card, move it to your hand. So this is really fantastic for battle cries. So you can keep cycling the same battle cry over and over again. Also really nice if you have a minion that you don't want to lose on your board and you're not Jandis, where you can just swap it into the shop and buy it and keep it in your hand, where you're like, okay, I have this really great tech card, but it's only great against this and this opponent, but I don't want to sell it. Kidnap Sack. Next up is Enhance-O-Matic. At the start of your turn, get an enhanced part that gives +5/+5 and a random bonus, either Taunt, Wind Fury, Divine Shield, or Reborn. The start of turn effect is nice. The +5/+5 is nice. Sometimes they're very, very useful. I, many a time, unfortunately, used the Reborn from this on a Leroy. Was it very, very gross? Yes. Would I do it again, given the opportunity? Probably. Can be very useful. Again, it's kind of the RNG. I've had games with Enhance-O-Matic where I'd only got +5/+5 taunt, and that was it. Incredibly low RNG, but you know, it happens. The Wind Fury can be really useful, and any of these can go on any minion, so overall really beneficial. I literally already talked about this one. We have Partner in Crime, get your golden buddy. Oh, it's nice to see it in the patch notes. The just immense amount of joy from Partner in Crime games, because it was like a little Easter egg. It was so fun. Next, we have Icicle, which is an Avenge one. Give a minion in your hand +4 attack. Could be okay for things that you summon, like a Feathermane, or like if you're playing Murloc and you're using a base skill. Avenge one is very good. That attack stacks very quickly. But again, it's that thing with just attack buffs that I apparently don't love. So for me, this isn't my favorite, but I can see that it can be very beneficial. You can keep 1 minion in your hand per turn and let it get the value. Could be really great for cleave. Could be really great to instigate a pivot. Lots of things here. Next up is a Soul Pact. After you play a minion, give other minions of the same type +1/+1. Now, we learned last time with Soul Pact that this behaves in benefit of the dual type minions, which is amazing. So after you play a minion that's maybe like an elemental, if you have a dual type elemental Quillbore, or I can't remember the other ones right now, but if you play a minion that is 2 different things, you can still get the value on that minion. Amazing. It's like double dipping. Following up is the Walking Fort's best friend. This is Sturdy Shard. At the end of your turn, give your minions without taunt +1/+2 for each taunt minion you control. So it's an end of turn effect, which Walking Fort is also an end of turn effect. And you can taunt half your board and not taunt half your board, and just everything buffs. It's really beautiful. Next is Doppelganger's Locket. After each combat, discover a non-golden minion from your last opponent's warband. It keeps enchantments. Now, this could be really useful for multiple reasons. Like, pretend you sacrificed a lot of your health to get your quest done for this reward. You face someone with very large minions. You're playing a 1 health in a dream game, but you get one of their very large minions, and then you have enough to stay alive, and you win the game. Sometimes you're a little bit out of luck because your whole opponent's warband is golden. Pretty rare, but could happen. That's just some bad luck. Next up is Timeline Acceleration. At the start of your turn, get 2 accelerators that transform a minion into one from a tier higher. So let's also note that this does not say a card. This says a minion. This is still very minion specific. Could be useful with Galakrond, for instance, where you use a double timeline acceleration and then use your hero power and you get to discover the highest tier. Make sure, if that's the case, that you're doing the spells first and then the hero power, so you get your discover as opposed to discovering and then random. But yeah, in general, could be pretty useful. Could be useful with Toki, Toki is in jail, and I don't know when we're going to see Toki again, but whenever Toki comes back, could be useful. Invigorating Conch. This has always been my dream, to have Conch and Anima Bribe as Sire Denathrius, but I don't know if that's even possible. Like, I don't know if that's allowed. When you buy a minion, give its stats to a random friendly minion. So this time around, you're buffing elementals, you're buffing the shop with Felemental Rylak, because we love doing that. And then you're buying minions, and they're large minions, then your board gets large, and then big stats and serotonin. Next is Boom Squad. Avenge 3, deal 10 damage to the highest health enemy minion. This, of course, is very useful for those summoning comps, undead, beasts. Mech as well, because Mech does have the menace, the replicating menace, and has a tendency towards that slightly, like Omega Buster comp can be a little bit more valuable with this. It's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst, and could be quite meme-tastic. Next is Divine Armor. At the end of your turn, give the leftmost minion in your hand +6/+6 and Divine Shield. This is another end of turn effect, works with Drakari, but my qualm with this is the same that I have with Voon, where if you play specifically Murloc, or just like anything where you're Feathermane, when you have something in your hand that at one point in the game becomes this like immovable thing because you can't play it and you don't really have a choice. Like, you've tripled it already, so tripling it to move it to the right side of your hand isn't really an option. So you're just giga buffing and re-shielding this one minion. So kind of hope to not do that with this, but it's fun, it's good, it's valuable. Like, you can give it to something that you want to stay alive on the right side of your board. If it's a Banana Slam, if it's a Mama Bear, if it's a Rivendare, you can give it to, it's just the Divine Shield's cute. And the additional stats with the end of turn, like that too. Next up, Map of the Unknown. After you play a minion of a type you don't control, give a friendly minion of each type +2/+2. Now, this one does not work beneficially. Where, like, if you have an elemental Quillbore and you play an elemental because you only have that one and everything else is like Quillbore, Mech, other things, unfortunately doesn't work. So that one is something to keep in mind, that it doesn't work that way. But aside from that, the stats are nice. And as long as you are playing a very specific kind of Menagerie and leave something out that involves a lot of economy, very useful. Next up, Blood-Soaked Tome, where you are Millhouse without being Millhouse. Minions in the tavern cost 2 gold. Again, minions can't change the cost of spells here, but, discounted minions sounds pretty good. Scepter of Guidance is next. The tavern always offers 2 a particular minion type when refreshed. I remember asking Twitch at one point saying, what would you rather have, Scepter of Guidance or Friends Along the Way? And Scepter of Guidance is just a lot more regular, beneficial, useful. Always seeing 2 of this particular minion type, you get multiple rolls each turn, so that could be really helpful. And it also almost feels like a Ysera, but not particularly dragons. So yeah, I like it. I like it better than I like Friends Along the Way, because you also don't have to worry about hand space management. I'm curious about how this is going to play into like the the amount of space in a tavern, because we already know that like certain things get priority when you play the Lubber comp before Lubber got nerfed. Like the whole shop would mostly be spells at a certain point, or it would all be spells. So I'm curious how this plays into that. Next up, we have Endless Blood Moon. Your blood gems give an extra +1/+1 at the start of your turn. Add 2 to your hand. Definitely have some strong Quillbore. Rugug is something, and getting an extra 2 to your hand sounds nice. Sounds good. The only thing that I was kind of concerned about last time around with this is like, if you don't have Quillbore per se, and you just have like, you know, Menagerie, it's like, okay, I'm going to play 2 gems. You can cycle Sunbacon here and there for stats, because the gems do have extra buffs without having to work for those extra buffs. But this seems a little bit specific. And our last 2, we have Turbulent Tombs, which is add blank Death Rattle minion to your hand, and your Death Rattles trigger an extra time. So this is very similar to Titus' Tribute, which got removed because it's basically a permanent Titus. I'm wondering how this is going to play into some of our beast comps and undead comps. And then we have Gilnean War Horn. Add a particular Battlecry minion to your hand, and your Battlecries trigger an extra time, which does stack with Bran, which is lovely. As a Battlecry enjoyer, I really enjoyed this one. Surprise. A little note that Volatile Venom and Tiny Henchman will not be around this time. I'm quite happy that Volatile Venom is gone. All right, that was all of our quests and quest rewards. But wait, there's more. We have some new minions. We have returning minions. We have some minions leaving. Oh, we've got so much more to talk about. We are starting with Egil. Egil is a tier 3 Murloc Beast dual type. This is a 7/1 with the battle cry of give another random friendly minion and a minion in your hand +2/+3. Also really interesting because it is a battle cry and giving something stats in your hand. If you were to play that next to a Rylak, say, those stats are going to stay in your hand. So like Elemental, but hand buffs. But Egil being on tier 3 is fantastic. That is a 7 attack and then some buffs. Whew. Next up is the Vengeful Slitherer. It's a tier 3 Naga Undead, and the stats are 5/1 with the spellcraft of give your minions +1 health until next turn. Any that die next combat gain it permanently. This is a nice little health buffing tool. I don't hate it, and it could be very useful for a Menagerie comp, just to get through a little bit of mid-game tempo. It doesn't necessarily need to be a Naga comp, so I like this minion. Interesting for undead. Not sure how I feel about the undead aspect. Still working through that one. I want to see that one in play. We have the neutral minion Saloon Dancer. This is a tier 4. It is a 4/5 taunt. Whenever you cast a tavern spell, give another friendly minion +3/+3. This reminds me a little bit of like the Paint Smudger, because Paint Smudger played a blood gem. Saloon Dancer gives buffs. But just between this and the Vengeful Slitherer and Egil so far, I feel like we're seeing this whole plethora of mid-game buffs. Next, we're seeing a tier 5. This is Augmented Laborer. It's a tier 5 mech demon. It's a 1/6 with Avenge 4. Get a random mecha demon. Oh, that sounds like Mecha Jiraxis might be moving along, maybe, because we're getting a mecha demon, which we have the Reborn, the Wind Fury, and the Taunt. I'm pretty sure the Wind Fury one's name is Reggie. I don't know why. That's the only one that I know. And the fact that the Augmented Laborer is a mech demon means that we can use Mind Muck to buff it. We can use Magnetics to buff it. We could do both. Another dual type. I'm liking these dual type minions. We have a Fellbore. This is a tier 6 Quillbore demon. So 1/4, after you cast 3 spells, consume a minion in the tavern to gain its stats. This very much feels like a fantastic Menagerie piece when you're playing a Nala board. Whether Demon or Quillbore are not in, this could absolutely fill that spot. That could be your 6th minion. Say it's a Fellbat because demons are in, and the Fellbore. I feel like they'd be besties because Fellbat will buff both the Fellbat and the Fellbore. And, you're playing a lot of spells because you're playing Nala. Oh my gosh, this is actually so good. Next up is the Dead Stomper. Tier 6 Undead Beast. This is like our Stompy boy. This is like our tier 6 Demon Beast. But Undead Beast makes so much more sense. It's a 2/6. After you summon a minion in combat, give your minions +3 attack. Oh, it's it's a minion type update to Stompy Boy. It literally looks like Stompy Boy, but dead. I'm really interested to see this in play with the Tumbling Disaster and how it's going to impact, and especially at the back of a Beast board, Undead board. Our last new minion, we have the Whirling Lassomatic. It's a tier 6 mech. It's a 9/2 Divine Shield Wind Fury. Whenever this attacks, get a random tavern spell. Well, hello, another addition to our Menagerie board that I'm building in my head right now. Divine Shield Wind Fury. We haven't seen one of those since the Crackling Cyclone then, have we? Unless we build it ourselves with magnetics. But this, of course, is not magnetic itself. You're going to have to modify this minion. Oh, this is going to be really, really, really good. And I love it. As for minions coming back, we are seeing even more of that mid-game tempo I was talking about earlier. We have Yrel, the tier 2, 1/4. After this attacks, give a friendly minion of each type +1/+2. And it feels like so long that Yrel was in Battlegrounds. I probably wasn't that long ago. I really enjoyed playing Yrel, and I'm excited to see Yrel back. Next, we have Rendell. Oh, Rendell was the cutest. Tier 4, a 4/5. At the end of your turn, steal the highest tier card from the tavern. End of turn, Drakari, obligated to say because I like to do nonsense. Also, could combo really well with the Elise quest reward, where you golden the highest tier minion, and then Rendell steals it. Oh. Yeah. Wait, what if you are Varden, right? And you golden the highest tier minion, and then you buy enough that the minion, you basically force a copy because it's a copy of the golden one. Oh, and then, oh my gosh. I used to like pre-planning my videos because I was like, well, I'm going to miss something. But then I feel like this unhinged discovery is just so very sway. Next up, we have Tortollan Blue Shell. This is a tier 5, a 4/7. I loved the blue shell. If you lost your last combat, this minion sells for 5 gold. Fantastic comeback mechanic. Really, really great. I love this minion. We have Manted Queen coming back. This is the tier 6, 5/5 Venomous. Start of combat. For each of your minion types, gain +5/+5 Wind Fury, Reborn, or Taunt. Sometimes it works out really well, sometimes it works out really not well, but the queen is back. We are seeing a change to Utility Drone and Scrap Scraper. Utility Drone is going down to tier 4 with the stats of 3/4. At the end of your turn, give your minions +1/+1 for each magnetization they have. And Scrap Scraper is going up to tier 5. 6/5 is now a Death Rattle. Get a random magnetic mech. Scrap Scraper also becoming a Death Rattle is very interesting because you can give it Reborn. Yeah, no, there's a lot of opportunity there. Is that broken? Is that gonna be too good? We are seeing a change that is so lovely to Blazing Skyfin Dragon Murloc. I've been recently calling it the Curse of the Skyfin for me because I take one and then it stays and it gets buffed and it just doesn't scale well enough. But I've put so much effort and time into making this little baby Skyfin grow. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to get rid of you. But now it's a 1/3 after you trigger a battle cry, gain +1/+1. So it is no longer playing a battle cry, it's triggering a battle cry. This is so good with Snicker Snacks. This is so good in so many different ways. Last but not least for our minion changes, this is a change that's very necessary. We've been waiting for this. This is the Peckish Feldrake tier 4 Demon Dragon. This is a golden change only. Golden used to consume 6 minions in the tavern. Now the golden is consume 3 minions in the tavern to gain double their stats. I'm sure if you're seeing your opponent with this is not what you want to hear. But this is so much better because when you double your battle cry with Bran or with War Horn, it felt really bad to play the Feldrake because it's not getting value. There's only 6 minions to eat, potentially even if you're on tier 6 and there's no additional spells. So this makes it a whole lot better because you gain double the stats of the 6 in the shop. Quests, rewards, new minions, returning minions, changes, and yes, there's still more. We have some new spells. The first new spell is Fluidity. This is a tier 3, 1 gold. Swap a friendly non-golden minion with a random one in the tavern. So Jandis. It's a Jandis spell. Really nice for re-triggering battle cries, or that situation I talked about earlier where you want to take something back to your hand and you use Kidnap Sack. You could also use Fluidity. We have Toxic Tumbleweed. This is a tier 4, 2 gold. Start of combat, summon a 1/1 Tumbling Assassin with Venomous. It attacks immediately. If you know for a fact your opponent has a very large taunt, I imagine that this spell might be your best friend. Very useful just to remove a large threat. Or even to like trigger a tech, like the Mad Matador. You play this and then you don't have to worry about too much attack from your first minion impacting your board. Noted that you do need room to summon this, right? Because it is a start of combat effect. So if you're doing this, make sure that you can summon it. We have another tier 6 here. We have Channel the Devourer. Remove a minion. Give its stats to a random friendly minion. So before we were Jandis, and now we are Mutinous. This is really great for those minions that you may have buffed and not want to get rid of. And especially, we're seeing that mid-game tempo be incredibly buffed now with several minions supporting a mid-game tempo situation. This could very much help you remove whatever piece that you were like, man, this is the biggest piece on my board, but it has nothing to do with my end game. Channel the Devourer. We have Scavenge for Parts. This is a tier 4, 4 gold. At the end of your turn, get a random magnetic minion and it lasts 3 turns. This is notably only offered in mech games with the change of getting Scrap Scraper to 5 and this being available on 4 and lasting 3 turns and end of turn effect. Lots of really positive things here that could be very beneficial. We're seeing a spell only offered in Murloc games here. This is Cloning Conch. This is a tier 5, 5 gold. Get a copy of a Murloc in your hand. Notably, this does not say a plain copy. This says get a copy of. So you have a Bream that you've been buffing for a while. If you sell some things, if you work really hard, you can make your dreams come true and get 2 of that minion. I bet your Coral Murgler would sing some praises for you. LOL, but okay, sorry. Next is this one that's only for Dragon games, and it's called Guzzle the Goop, which I am 100% going to nickname, but I don't know what it is yet. But yes, we have a tier 4, 4 gold. At the end of your turn, give your dragons +4 attack. This also lasts 3 turns, also an end of turn effect. Could be useful for that little, Nether Drake, that mid-game end of turn that maybe just isn't strong enough to carry itself. Also great with Whelp Smuggler. Only offered in Beast games. This is Boon of Beetles. It's a tier 4, 2 gold. Start of combat, give your minions Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 beetle. Finding this spell, I imagine, is a really, really fantastic way to make a beast transition. If you were kind of hoping to, but you were like, man, I don't have enough stuff for this yet. Fear not. This spell, and then maybe just like one turn of just a little bit of flux and you've got yourself a pivot. Of course, you need the minions that buff the beast. That's the most important part. But if you have that, but not a lot of the other things like the raptor and just the horsey, the mecha horsey, those kind of things, this is helpful. Just for some additional summons while you're finding the other board pieces. Only offered in undead games, we have Butchering. This is a tier 4, 2 gold. Destroy a friendly undead. Your undead have an extra attack equal to its tier this game. Wait, this is quite good. Yeah, undead are great at having some attack. Yeah, that's really good, actually. Wow. Only offered in elemental games, we have Suspicious Stimulant. This is a tier 3, 2 gold. Freeze a minion in the tavern. If it is frozen at the end of this turn, double its stats. So of course use this when you're sure you are not going to roll or do any more actions anymore, because if for some reason you have like 1 gold and you're like, oh man, should I roll? You have 50 seconds and then it's 20 seconds and you're like, I should roll, but I've already used this. Don't do it. Only offered in Naga games, we have Spiked Scale Special. This is a tier 3, 2 gold. Get 3 random spellcraft spells. I like that. I like that a lot. Sometimes spellcraft can be very useful. Sometimes it can not be though. And being a tier 3, I assume that it's tier locked, unless for some reason it's not. But I imagine that it is, because most things are. Very few things in this game are not tavern tier locked. tier 3 and below, not the best spellcraft, but of course you could use it later in the game. Curious about this. Only offered in demon games, we have Corrupted Cupcakes. I love that name. It's a tier 5, 3 gold. Choose a friendly demon. It consumes all minions in the tavern to gain their stats. Glad that's a tier 5. That's really fantastic. Like, it's like a like turn anything into a Feldrake. That's really, really good. Only offered in pirate games, we have Plunder Seeker. This is a tier 4, 6 gold. It's steal a random card from the tavern. Repeat for each friendly pirate. I read the 6 gold and then I was like, whoa, that's expensive. And then I read the rest and I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's a lot of cards. Wow, that's some value. Assuming that you're playing like a full pirate board. So I imagine this spell is very much like Patch's best friend. I mean, hopefully Hogger's best friend, unless Hogger just finds no pirates. But yeah, no, that's a great spell for pirates. And last but not least, only offered in Quillboard games, we have Gem Confiscation. This is a tier 4, 1 gold. Play 2 blood gems on a friendly minion. It steals all blood gems from its neighbors. So Necrolite, but a spell, which leads to us talking about cards that have been removed. Necrolite has been removed, surprise. We also have Fairy Tale Caroler. Transmuted Bramble Witch is gone. Caroler was a really good tactic of like a little comeback, but now we have a few. And like I talked about a few times already, mid-game tempo is so real. So I think it's going to be okay. Bramble Witch being gone is massive. That was a really important minion for removal, but also arguably overpowered. Especially that it was a dual type minion. There was a lot that was very good with this minion. Observer of Myths is moving on, and I think that's really fair. It didn't really see a lot of play, wasn't useful in a lot of scenarios. Scourfin is gone, which I'm quite sad about. Withered Spearhide, that undead Quillbor is gone. Relentless Murghol is gone. Interesting that Murghol is gone. Mechadraxis, we kind of thought would be gone, is gone. Imposing Percussionist is gone, so no more discovering a demons and taking that amount of damage. Octosari is gone. Octosari was really fun, but also very, very good, especially when you double its stats with Banana Slamma. So fair. Nuzao is also gone. Nuzao was a great removal piece in a Menagerie board. So sad to see Nuzao go away. Bejeweled Duelist, the taunt, the elemental taunt is gone. Trembling Trolley, we see that quest reward that's basically Trembling Trolley, so that one is gone. Adaptable Barricade also moving on, which I really enjoyed for multiple reasons, but it is good to, see some new things, and that will be everything leaving. In terms of minions, we have those minions we talked about that are coming back. In addition to those, we have the Thorncaller coming back, and Crackling Cyclone is coming back. That Divine Shield Wind Fury Elemental is coming back to the Battlegrounds. It's been a little while. And we did see 2 Tavern spells removed from the spell pool, which I think for very obvious reasons. Jaws of Fate, which is the Yogg wheel, is gone from the spell pool, as well as Buddy Up. And, I feel like Buddies just regularly in every game. I mean, there's already a few Buddy-related quest rewards, and if you're playing ETC, so I think the RNG of Buddy Up 2 maybe would have not been the best. So I'm in support of this. And there we have it. This was the longest patch note review, but we had so much to talk about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think, what you're excited about. And right now, I am live on Twitch playing the new stuff. So come over there, hang out. And thanks for watching. See you later. Bye, everyone.